I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing as we observe a moment of silence for those who have lost their lives in the service of our country. Thank you. Okay. We have two sets of minutes, liquor minutes and regular session minutes. What is your pleasure?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Already moving second, the aforementioned minutes be approved as submitted. All those in favor say aye. Motion is carried unanimously. We have two application for special Class C licenses. The first is for beer, wine, and liquor. The Rock Hall Volunteer Fire Company. This is for a big game banquet for the Rocky Mountain Elks to be held on April 7th. And we have a special Class C license request for beer and wine only from the Kent Center for a benefit dinner to be held on April 13th. These are applications for a liquor license which requires a public hearing. Does anyone have any comments for or against the aforementioned applications? Hearing none.
So moved. Second.
Probably moving second that the aforementioned applications be approved. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried unanimously. Okay. Rob here? Oh, there you go. I can't take the glasses off. I can see you. Rob, we have.
Does you want to do it?
No.
Yeah. And what about the two people?
Oh, and also, okay.
No. Nice. Good to see you again.
Okay.
Either to me.
And Mr. Edler and anybody else who's going to testify, if you could please come forward and raise your right hand. I think I've gotten ahead of myself because we have to read the notice, but I'll go ahead and swear everybody in first. How are you, sir? Do you solemnly promise or swear under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you are about to give in the matter before us shall be true to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Okay, this is an application that's been made by Ryan Ponte, member of 23401 Sandpiper Road, Chestertown, Maryland. Scott Ponte, member 23401 Sandpiper Road, Chestertown, Maryland. Bryn. Sorry, Bryn. Okay. And Elizabeth Knapp, member at 112 Oakleaf Drive, Chestertown, representing Wheelhouse Restaurant LLC for a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license, special Sunday privilege and caterer's privilege on and off sales on a premises known as Wheelhouse Restaurant at 2658 Wilkins Lane, Rock Hall, Maryland, which shall authorize the holder thereof to keep for sale and to sell beer, wine, and liquor at retail at the place described therein described for consumption on premise or elsewhere. Hearing will be held tonight for this particular application.
Gentlemen, Mr. Edler and the clerk and I have reviewed the application and all the documentation. The restaurant is essentially reopening of where the Swan Point Inn was. This is a new restaurant, new owners, new venture. They purchased the old Swan Point Inn, so the location has a history of being operated as a restaurant. We have reviewed everything. Everything seems to be in order to us. The only issue is that we are awaiting health department approval. So if the board does give approval of the license tonight, we would request that that approval be contingent upon the health department approval. And I would just call on Mr. Edler and the applicants to give some background information on the application to support, for the record, to support the application.
They're going through the process. Like Mr. Yeager said, we're just waiting now on the final health department walkthrough. They've even attended the TIPS class, so they're ready to go.
The health department actually is coming through on Friday.
Okay.
Is everything in your application true and correct?
Yes.
Okay. You understand that you can't serve minors and that this county treats that very seriously?
Have any questions?
I have any question.
Okay. Does anyone have any comments or questions about this applicant?
Thank you. Oh, you're welcome.
And she lives in Miami.
See us.
Okay. Have a motion?
So move the applicant as submitted.
I'll second that.
It's probably moving second to approve the application to the Wheelhouse Restaurant. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried unanimously. Congratulations. And this is all contingent upon, as our attorney said, about the passing of the health department. Glad to see you. Unless you want to come here, just to come and see us, that'd be great. Don't come here otherwise. All right? No violations. Good luck. All right? Good luck to you.
Good luck.
Good luck. I have who's come? Amy? Oh, the Agricultural Preservation District?
Hi.
I like the way you delegate. Okay, wait a minute. Get this right. The County Commissioners of Kent County, Maryland, we're holding a public hearing tonight at this location for the purpose of discussing the voluntary creation of a agricultural land preservation district for the following: Jones Farming LLC at 30394 Duck Puddle Road, Kennedyville, tax map 15, parcel 206, 84.008 acres. Pursuant to the Code of Public Laws of Kent County, Chapter Paragraph 171, 5 Agricultural Preservation District, and easement of districts, establishment of districts.
Mr. President and Commissioners, at its meeting on February 1st, the County Planning Commission reviewed the application of Jones Farming LLC, who is seeking to establish a county agricultural preservation district on their farm that is comprised of 84 acres with 73% qualifying soils and is in the agricultural zoning district. There are 2 dwellings on the farm, a principal dwelling and an accessory dwelling. The Agricultural Preservation Advisory Board reviewed this application on their meeting on January 29th and unanimously submitted its favorable recommendation to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission found the application is consistent with the comprehensive plan and meets the criteria for creation of a county agricultural preservation district, and forwarded their favorable recommendation for the approval of the Jones Farming LLC Kent County Agricultural Preservation District.
Okay. Anyone have any comments at all? District? I assume no one signed up to make any comments?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Probably moving second to approve the for discuss agriculture preservation district. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried unanimously.
Thank you.
Congratulations and thank you very much. Okay.
These are just readings, right?
Now we got the bus thing. That's you, okay.
Next two.
Roll around too much. So this is Code Home Rule Bill 1-2018. This is an act to amend Article 5, Section 7.3 and 8.3 and 11.3, and Article 7, Section 6 and 7, to include special exception provisions in the village, intense village, and commercial districts and special exception section of the Kent County Land Use Ordinance for the purpose of adding language which will allow provisions to permit a school bus parking lot as a special exception use and to establish review standards therein. This act includes amendments to Article 5, Section 10 and 11 to include accessory use provisions in the commercial and crossroads commercial districts of the Kent County Land Use Ordinance for the purpose of adding language which will allow provisions to permit the parking of school buses as an accessory use.
The Planning Commission favorably reviewed this text amendment in February, and what it does is it allows for bus parking provisions that do not currently exist in the ordinance. The provisions were added to intense village, and commercial districts to allow for some flexibility for school bus parking. The special exception standards were taken largely from the truck parking lot standards, so they're consistent with those standards. Also, provisions were added to allow some more flexibility for school bus parking as an accessory use. Those uses do currently exist in the ordinance and are limited to 2 school buses as accessory parking uses in most districts. On farms, there's an allowance for 5 school buses parked. This provision allows for 3, so it cuts it in the middle in commercial districts as an accessory use.
But in the agricultural district, it still remains at 5?
Yes, well, for a farm.
Or a farm?
Yes.
Okay.
But the main point of this text amendment was to allow for a school bus parking lot, as the need was illustrated by the Board of Education.
Okay. Since this is a public hearing, does anyone have any comment, would like to make any statement?
One question.
Yes.
State your name for the, if you could come up and state your name for the record, please.
Joe Wheeler, supervisor operations, King County
Excuse me, Mr. Wheeler. Can you come up and speak into the microphone so that we can get it recorded?
Okay, no problem.
Thank you.
Just one question. I believe in the amendment, Ms. Murdoch, it asks for asphalt. So we're wondering if we can we make some changes to that? It's asking for asphalt if you're creating a parking lot. Am I correct? All right. So in looking at the public school system and our financial situation at times, could we ask for, if we could put down, instead of using asphalt, if we could put down something else as a hard surface to cover our parking lot?
Stone base?
We could do stone base, crush and run, something instead of asphalt at this point.
Oh, well, this is the point where we had to take up with your planning commission.
Okay.
Is that you're requesting that the text as currently written be amended?
Yes, if we could amend the text. Yes.
This is a request, just to clarify the record, is this a request on behalf of the Department of Education, the Board of Education?
Yes, this is a request upon, per the Board of Education. Yes, sir.
Okay. Refer it back to the planning commission. Is that what happened?
You don't have to do that. I mean, the process would be, if you're inclined to entertain that amendment, and if you don't feel that it's substantive, you could adopt with that amendment in place. If you feel that it is a substantive change to the text amendment and would wish to send it back to the Planning Commission, you could do so. Is that accurate?
That's correct. If you're doing something that doesn't change basically the nature of this, but it's something that is the result of public comment. You can do that today if you want. My suggestion is, if we're going to amend it, we probably should get it in writing and not vote on it until that's been taken care of. If there are changes that involve the substance of this, then it would be appropriate to take it back to the Planning Commission for recommendation and review.
Personally, I don't see it as a substantive change. I mean,
So whether it's change or not, I mean, if it's a capital expenditure, it can be, you know, the county government perhaps would be doing the parking lot.
This change does not limit itself just to publicly owned property.
Right.
Any private entity can do the same thing.
Ms. Murdoch.
We're just looking at, we're examining the text of the document to see exactly, if we were to make this change, where would it be?
Okay.
This provision G outlines that areas for parking and cartways are paved. This provision is taken directly from the truck parking lot standards.
Okay, so since he's asked this question, so you're saying even out in the ag community, if it's on a farm, you insist that that be paved?
no, this is just for the large parking lot.
This is just for school bus parking lots.
But it's based on large truck
Correct.
parking areas as well. And what constitutes a large truck parking area, I think is...
Must be 5 or more. Because after it's not required for 5, then it must mean more.
We're talking a little bit of apples and oranges. The school bus parking provisions that exist are for accessory parking of operable buses that are under the ownership of the landowner. So there aren't
Like they have been in the past.
This is if
I got that.
buses in relation to the ones that you own.
right. So these there aren't performance standards really for parking a school bus on your property, other than the school bus requirement to be in the rear yard. With this standard, this is for a full-scale parking lot, and the provisions for review that you see in this proposal are lifted from the truck parking lot provisions, basically. So really, to what quantifies a truck parking lot are the provisions that you see before you. If an applicant comes before the Planning Commission with an application for a parking lot, then they're operating a business, they have multiple trucks, and they're looking to park those trucks there as an affiliation with their business, or leasing space.
And the section says here, the area for parking and cartways are paved. So all it says paved. What's the definition of paved?
That
Another
there's
part
no
of the ordinance.
definition of paved in the ordinance, so we would defer to the dictionary definition of paved.
So it doesn't necessarily mean asphalt.
Okay. So I just want to make sure.
Paved.
Well, but it would mean it.
I don't
would,
think stone would
Yeah, it
do
would
it.
not be. It would not be a gravel.
Right.
Right.
That would be my interpretation.
Okay.
And as far as the schools system is concerned, that's a capital expenditure,
Okay.
capital budget.
So that's something you guys will help us out with. Okay. All right, no problems. We just want to make sure. We want to make sure all of our bases are covered.
Yeah, I mean, if we're asking you to do something in a certain way, and it's going to be, I mean, we're all one team, so that's what we're here.
Well, I know that, but I just wanted to make sure that we were all covered. Okay.
Record.
Well. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
And we'll try not to take it out of the salary line.
Please.
Okay, written comments will be accepted until Friday, March 30th of this year at 12 o'clock in the Commissioner's office or by email at kentcounty@kentgov.org. Okay. Next one is... Thank you. Also, a public hearing on Code Home Rule Bill 2-2018, which is an act to amend Article 5, Section 10.3, and Article 7 Section 6 and 7 to include special exception provisions in the Crossroad Commercial Districts and Special Exception section of the Kent County Land Use Ordinance for the purpose of adding language which will allow provisions to permit the manufacturing, processing, and assembling of food products to include baked and confectioner's goods, frozen food processing, fruit and vegetable processing, canning and storage, or businesses of a similar nature, excluding animal and seafood processing as a special exception use, and establish new review standards therein.
And this zoning text amendment was also reviewed favorably by the Planning Commission in February. And it establishes provisions that are similar to the provisions that exist in the employment center and industrial districts to allow for some greater flexibility in the Crossroads Commercial District, to allow for a food processing facility that is more limited in scope than it would be in the industrial and employment center, but will allow some business flexibility for food processing absent animal and seafood processing in Crossroads Commercial, subject to the special exception standards that are outlined in the text amendment.
Okay. We do have a letter of support for this particular code home rule from the Kent County Economic Development Commission. Does anyone have any comments or make any questions or statements concerning this ordinance? If not, the written comments will be accepted until Friday, March 30th of this year at 12 p.m. in the Commissioner's office or by email at kentcounty@kentgov.org. Okay. All right. You want to keep right on?
Stay with Tom for the next item.
Okay. Go with the home mortgage modification agreement?
Yes, we had a housing improvement project mortgage that was entered into in 2008 and then modified in 2009. Subsequently, the homeowner became in default of their first mortgage. Our mortgage was subordinate to the first mortgage on the property. Foreclosure sale occurred, and that brought insufficient funds to pay our mortgage. We sought some guidance from the Department of Housing and Community Development as to the legal effect of our mortgage. Should it be treated as a tax lien or a mortgage? When there is a foreclosure, any junior mortgage or mortgage liens would be eliminated as the result of the foreclosure process. Essentially, when there's a foreclosure, the first mortgage gets paid first to the extent there's funds, and then you go down the line. There were no funds to pay our mortgage. Question came up is, should this be treated as a tax lien? Because tax liens, if you have something that's collected as taxes, would not be wiped out. The Department of Housing and Community Development tends to be of the opinion that this is a mortgage, not a tax lien. Given a cost-benefit analysis, we don't recommend that we pursue this matter further. We recommend that we treat it as a subordinate mortgage and authorize me to direct the finance office to stamp the deed so the foreclosure sale can be completed. Right now, the finance office has put a hold on this because of the county mortgage, so we're simply requesting that I be authorized to advise the finance office that they can go ahead and stamp the deed, and then this file would be closed out. Do you have any comments?
And I guess, and in going forward, our question is, would you like to see such examples individually, or would you like to direct staff at a policy level to proceed in the most cost-effective way?
Right.
If that is...
What is the financial risk to the county?
Well, it's essentially a pass-through program. It's the state money, and that's why we exercise due diligence, and that's why we consulted with the state. And the state basically, I think this isn't the only situation where this has come up, and they were in agreement. I look at these, and there's a cost-benefit analysis to be made that if we want to take a different position given the way that these mortgages have historically been drafted and done, which goes back years and years and years. It doesn't appear to be cost effective to challenge these unless there's something that we see and we have a particular reason for doing so. If these come up again, we would seek the same result, the same request that we're making today.
But it's housing, state's money, not county.
Correct. And that's why we talked with the state before we did this. And we have had situations where we have required payment. And I think we've discussed those here before. And again, if we feel that it's cost effective for the county and we have a strong legal basis to seek repayment, we will pursue those.
I would suggest that we go ahead and take the recommendation from the state, but I would like to see these individually so that we can discuss each case on its own merit.
That's fine. And we are kind of, because we don't administer this program anymore, so we're kind of winding down, I think, these.
Many of them out there.
Second.
Okay, probably moving second to authorize the finance officer to stamp the trustee's deed for the home property notwithstanding the county's mortgage and mortgage modification agreement so that the trustee deed can be recorded in the land records office.
Correct. And this is also contingent upon all taxes and assessments being current. We're not waiving any taxes or assessments. It's only this mortgage.
Not part of the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion's carried.
Thank you. And may I be excused as well as Mrs. Mordock?
I have.
She has more stuff.
Oh, you have another. Oh, that's right. You have more.
want to talk about that now, or I could wait till after the comp plan hearing.
Oh, we have. Okay. I gotta figure out where this is here. County Commissioners will hold a public hearing.
Did you?
If you wanted to look at the Department of Transportation letter before,
While
Oh,
Amy's
okay,
here.
okay. We'll do that. Where it is. Right there.
Assume you're just looking for the approval that everybody's agreeing with it, right?
Okay, we do have a 2018 Kent County Transportation Priority Letter be sent to Maryland Department of Transportation expressing the county's as well as our municipalities' priorities for highway and roads.
This letter generally, in addition to the transportation needs expressed by the County Roads Division, our county engineer, and all of the towns, we generally end the letter with a reminder of the county's position on a crossing of the Bay Bridge with the terminus in Kent County. We did begin this year's letter with that position and acknowledged that the NEPA study is currently underway and that the county has reconvened its monitoring committee, is appreciative of the collaborative nature of the Department of Transportation staff and attending our kickoff meeting, but strongly reiterating its position of opposition of that span dating back to the 1974 County Comprehensive Plan. But in addition to that position, there are a few additional projects that have been identified. We are continuing to make sure that the Chester River Bridge crossing is on the state's radar. They have a new data entry portal for projects in excess of $5 million. It's called the Chapter 30 portal. So Jim Wright and I have entered that project into the portal on behalf of the county and the town of Chestertown. The last estimate of the cost of that crossing, which was through a state highway study in 2011, was over $600 million. So They did call me back to clarify that I had my zeros in the right place. And
They're the ones who came up with that number. Yeah,
Right.
we've had actually a business that does that estimates it around 300 to 300.
right.
So it's just the way they can fluff.
And so we're continuing to make sure that that project is a known priority. There are some streetscape priorities, but also the town of Chestertown has added an engineering and design request for pedestrian and bicycling connections on Quaker Neck Road to facilitate safe passage from the Chestertown waterfront to the downtown areas trail. So that's been added to the list as well.
And there's also sidewalks and pedestrian walkways on Fatland Road.
Yes, that was in our letter last year as well, and it'll continue to remain a priority for us until we see it happen.
You just need approval to send it.
Your signatures.
Second.
Okay. Properly moving second to sign and forward the aforementioned Kent County priority letter to the Secretary of the Maryland Department of Transportation. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Letter is signed.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Have a good one.
Now, we have,
Sandy.
yeah. Sandy Coleman, Planning and Water Quality Consultant, Earth Data, Inc. Is that the casino?
Okay. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
We're at the end of a very long process that has been very fruitful, I believe. And what we're here tonight to the update to the Kent County Comprehensive Plan has now been transmitted to the county commissioners for their action, review, and action. And so let me introduce myself. I'm Sandy Coyman with Earth Data Incorporated, and we've been working with the Kent County Planning Commission and the staff to take a look at the 2006 Comprehensive Plan and update it and introduce whatever new priorities were believed to be appropriate by the Planning Commission and the public during the process. Let's try and head in the right direction. Okay, what we're going to do here tonight is I'm going to give a very brief presentation highlighting the plan and its development. Then we'll be taking public testimony on the plan for the benefit of the commissioners in their review. And at the end of my presentation, I'll talk a little bit about what are the steps remaining in this process of approval. Start off with the vision for Kent County is to preserve our historic and cultural traditions along with our high quality of life while embracing sufficient economic opportunities to provide for our citizens' economic well-being. This is largely a carryover of the 2006 plan, recognizing the county's existing high quality of life, and the plan it lays out strategies and proposals to maintain that quality of life and improve it. The comprehensive plan itself, the plan is the principal policy document outlining the county's future direction, policy, and recommended actions affecting land use, public investment, and important community characteristics and aspirations. Properly used and implemented, the plan provides guidance for public and private decision-making consistent with long-term sustainability for the county. The process is dictated largely by the state, and it requires several steps in the process, which have all been undertaken. And first off, the state requires that the Planning Commission be the originator of the plan and draft the plan, which they have done. Over the last 2 years, we've been meeting, reviewing the existing plan, and proposed updates to it. The state legislation also provides a variety of minimum subjects that must be contained in the plan, which this plan does meet all of those requirements and several other requirements that the state has. It also requires public participation in the form of public hearings. And during this process, the county actually went beyond that. We held 3 public forums and provided opportunities for folks to come to the Planning Commission meetings. They were open to the public, available for folks to make comment, have questions about it. Also, there was social media and email opportunity for people to provide their comments to the consultant and also to the staff, and which was transmitted to the Planning Commission. The state legislation also requires what they call the 60-day review, and what that is once the Planning Commission gets to a point where it has a draft that it believes is just about ready, that draft is then sent to the state, for the state agencies to review it and comment on it, make sure we've checked all the boxes and that the policies recommended are consistent with state policies, and just they provide general recommendations about how to improve your plan. The plan is also sent to surrounding jurisdictions, the surrounding counties, to make sure that anything that Kent County is proposing is also consistent with what the other counties have in mind, and gives them an opportunity to provide their input to Kent County's process. And also the plan was sent to the municipalities here in the county for them to provide their input. Once all that came back to the county, the staff and myself, we reviewed it, provided a matrix to the Planning Commission, which provided all the individual comments, and also provided a draft response to those, which the Planning Commission took under advisement and did make some changes to the plan based on the comments that were received. Once that's all in hand, the Planning Commission held a public hearing and took testimony from the public, and then reviewed their draft and amended it as appropriate. Now the Planning Commission has officially transmitted the draft plan to the county commissioners, and it's in their bailiwick to review it and take action. Once the plan is adopted, the plan will be implemented by policies in the plan itself, also perhaps other policies generated by the county, and updates to other plans, for example, the comprehensive water and sewage plan and the other various plans that the county maintains. Also, after the comprehensive plan is adopted, the county will then take a look at its land use ordinances and subdivision code and make appropriate amendments to reflect the changes in the comprehensive plan. Plan contents itself, the vision and purpose, which I've discussed the vision for you. There's a chapter or an element on the economy, and that was updated for the current circumstances, and we also worked with the Economic Development Committee and got their input, and the associated staff provided input. The towns and villages and countryside chapters are mainly looking at your land use in the county. And these chapters were, several things were added to them under the towns and villages. A map of the designated growth areas in the county was provided. And also the countryside, the priority preservation areas, which used to be in an appendices, was brought into the countryside chapter. And also there's a little bit more formal definition of the countryside, so it's a little bit clearer about what part of the county we're referring to when you talk about the countryside. The environmental chapter deals with the natural resources of the county, and one of the things that was incorporated into this chapter was the water resources element, kind of a summary of it, and it was added to the environmental chapter. Housing chapter pretty well stood pat. It reviews the housing situation of the county and provides some policies there. The transportation element As Amy was just mentioning, the Chesapeake Bay, the proposed new crossing for Chesapeake Bay received a lot of comment during the public hearing, and the Planning Commission and the plan recommends that the strongest opposition possible to that materializing in Kent County be pursued, and also that the plan encourages the county to participate in all the design committees and review committees at the state level so that the voice of the county is definitely heard. The community facilities and public services, two major things happened there. Took notice of the new community center and also the work that's been done on the broadband installation, and so those were duly noted. The historic and cultural resources. This chapter, some verbiage was added that gave a little bit more history and about the progress the county has made and the organizations that have been involved in developing the historic and cultural resources and the success that the county's had in preserving that. The implementation strategies chapter, a number of the implementation policies or recommendations have been completed from the 2006 plan, so they were deleted, and then several others were added to recognize some of the new circumstances in the plan. So, okay, some of the major updates. There is a major document that is a kind of a precursor to the plan, a background material document where the demographic, economic trends, and housing and development activity have all been documented and updated to bring that all forward and current. As part of that work, we worked with the Maryland Department of Planning, and they provide a model for projecting future land use by watershed, and that all has been incorporated into the plan. And the water resources element, which was developed as part of this plan, you actually have a formal document for the water resources element, which will actually, the summary in the plan, but the water resources element itself will end up in the comprehensive water and sewer plan. So that was all done. We took into account state legislative changes and the current economic trends. There's been a whole variety of things since 2006 that the state has undertaken. Just a couple of examples. There's priority funding areas have been instituted, the septic tiers. I mentioned the water resources element, which deals with public water supply, sewer, and stormwater management and the facilities that are associated with that, and makes projections about future demand for those. I noted the priority preservation area has been moved from the appendices into the plan. The municipalities in the county have been required to develop municipal growth elements, and this has been officially recognized in the plan, and the plan recommends working very closely with the municipalities. Total maximum daily loads and the watershed implementation plans have also been brought into the plan. That's something that actually predated 2006, but the federal government has really, and the state has recently, I don't know, in the last 10 years, I guess, has started to really work on those and moving that forward. And then also the Heritage Management Plan, Stories of the Chesapeake, has been brought into the plan and formally. Also, as part of the process, the Planning Commission and staff and myself, we looked at current issues, and there was also a citizen survey that went out online in hard copy for citizens to make their comments and respond on specific issues. And naturally, as part of the process, we looked at any changes in priorities the counties had or experienced, things like that that have happened, like the utility scale, solar energy work, and wind, and all that kind of thing, which is kind of a new aspect that's become a priority. And then also we made refinements to the document. Like I said, we moved the appendices into the text, and then also just did some general editing to update the plan and just to refine the document some. Here's just kind of a slide of the county snapshot. Population, the county continues to grow slowly but steadily. Demographics, aging population, with the median age continuing to increase between 2000 and the 2010 census. The average median age increased by almost 5 years, and the population of folks over 60 have become a larger percentage of the population. So that continues to, that's a trend that continues. On the employment side, you had some good news that there's some mixed trends with job and wage growth has come in the leading industries that occurred in education, construction, and professional and technical services, which tend to be a little bit higher wage groups than the prior plan, because mostly growth in the retailing sector. So there was some good news there. As far as housing goes, single-family housing dominates the housing stock. It's almost 4/5 of the county's housing stock, projected to continue to do that. It's about 10,500 units. Subdivision, there's about almost 3,800 existing vacant lots in the county. Many of those won't meet current standards and won't be able to be developed, but it looks like just your vacant lots could meet the expected demand for new housing for several decades at least. On land use, the recent trend has been a modest conversion of rural land, with 9% of your land cover in the developed category. And agriculture, the county proactively is slowing conversion of agricultural land, and obviously agriculture in this county is the dominant land cover, land use. Forest is a relatively small cover, and that reflects the amount of agriculture that's in the county and the fine soils that the county has for agriculture. So that's just kind of a quick snapshot. The citizen survey, we had 631 responses, which is quite good. Just to kind of hit the highlights, the quality of life, the neighborhood quality, and the value for county services. Majority of folks found those to be either excellent in the good category, and there's a little bit of question about the overall direction and overall image. But yet, folks, we asked them, would you recommend Kent County as a place to live, a place to retire, and a place to vacation? And in all cases, a pretty good-sized majority would recommend to their family, friends, and acquaintances that Kent County is a good place to locate. Then the last question of the survey was quite interesting. It was an open-ended one. What do you think would be important to improve Kent County? The consistency in the responses was amazing. The most popular one was jobs, economic development, especially for the young. We want to retain young folks here in the county. Folks would like to see additional shopping opportunities. They feel that they need some improvement there. And then there was a lot of question about school quality and the uncertain future of the school system. And I'm sure you folks have spent a lot of time dealing with that and understand that issue quite well. Okay, coming to the implementation section, I just want to quickly run through these priorities. These are actually restatements of priorities that are in the other parts of the plan, but these, they're there to be called out, give special recognition. These are things that the county would really work to implement. I want to support agriculture as a permanent and preferred land use. That's one of the fundamental tenets of the prior comprehensive plan and this plan. Continue to strongly oppose the North Bay Bridge. We've talked about that. Amy also talked about the new Chester River Bridge. That's a priority. Implement the economic development plan and efforts and move that forward as much as possible. Continue to guide development to the towns and villages to have that smart growth focus in the county. Cooperate with the business community and the education community and other stakeholders to improve education leading to college or technical employment. The total maximum daily loads and the watershed implementation plan should be addressed in a cost-effective manner. And the plan also recognizes that the amount of resources the county has available to it to address those two issues, you're going to need some additional support there. And as far as secondary priorities, foster diverse housing opportunities for all households, develop a capital improvement plan, identify and protect scenic view watersheds and provide significant landscape designations, prepare and adopt a historic preservation plan. And the last part of the implementation chapter talks about ongoing initiatives, things that have been underway and should be continued. Continue to participate in all land preservation programs, continue regional tourism work and marketing, update the land use ordinance for agri and heritage tourism, assure that new development complements rural heritage and character, and seek the adaptive reuse of historic properties, enhance neighborhood development areas character, that's carryover from the prior plan, retain and expand green infrastructure, especially riparian and large forest areas, and continue to maintain and enforce wildlife protection regulations. Okay, the next steps to complete. County commissioners review the plan, and they have really two options. They can adopt the plan, or they can remand the plan back to the Planning Commission and ask for changes in the plan to meet what happened. And once the plan is adopted, then the plan will be implemented through changes in the ordinance, updates to plans, as I mentioned earlier. So with that, that's my presentation, and I think now the public has an opportunity.
Thank you. This is very comprehensive. Those who wish to speak, Janet, say this. All speakers must identify themselves and use the area right here in front where the microphone is for the purpose to testify. And each person testifying will have 3 minutes for his or her remarks, and we'll maintain order through commands. And please stick to the issues at hand. And since the comprehensive plan is the issue, it's rather comprehensive. First person, Janet Lewis.
Good evening. Janet Lewis. I just wanted to say that having gone through this process for the last 2 years, I want to thank the Planning Commission, Amy Mordock and Katrina Decker, who have spent a lot of hours working on this, taking in comments, listening to the public in all of their meetings. And I think that overall the comprehensive plan has come forward and shows the due diligence that they put forward. And I hope that we're able to move forward, and please don't send this back.
We will see. Thank you. Pat Langenfelter? Not that the Planning Commission has anything else to do.
Pat Langenfelder, Kennedyville. I, too, would like to thank the Planning Commission for all their hard work. I know, having served on the Planning Commission at one point, it is a long, drawn-out process, but it's a well-done document. I've sat in and paid attention to what's been going on. And I particularly, of course, as a farmer, am very delighted that the county has continued and the plan continues to support agriculture. And as the newspaper said last week, I guess, that it was a love letter to farmers or agriculture. I really would think it should be a thank you letter to the farmers, because they've worked long and hard for several hundred years to keep this land as it is, and it's very productive. And, of course, with the help of the local government, protecting the land as well. So, again, I'm very supportive of the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Chip McLeod.
If I may approach,
Sure, please.
Sorry, I have 2 large ones and 2 small ones here. So
these all the same? Or?
Yeah, they're the same. That's correct. Standard for- Good evening. My name is Chip McLeod. I'm here on behalf of Richardson Properties Corporation to make comments on the comprehensive plan that's been recommended to the county commissioners by the Planning Commission. And first, let me echo the comments of the previous speakers and compliment the Planning Commission and your staff for this undertaking. It's no small project to update a comprehensive plan, and they're certainly to be commended. The focus of my comments are really in one specific area of Kent County, and that is the town of Millington and the area west of Millington to the interchange of Route 301 and 291. My comments are really just about that area of the county, and hopefully as I go through my comments, you'll see how important this particular area of the county is for the future growth of the county, future economic prosperity of the county, and how these comments and what is proposed in that area of the county is really consistent with the spirit, intent, visions, goals of the comprehensive plan. Not only what's being proposed as your updated comprehensive plan, but your current comprehensive plan. And as you heard from the consultant who worked with the county on the plan, a lot of this new comprehensive plan carries on some themes that have been rich in the tradition of Kent County for a number of years. Let me start with a little bit of background. As you all know, I started my professional career working for the Maryland Association of Counties many, many years ago. And I'll remember one of my assignments at that time was to go in and oppose Governor Schaefer's plan to centralize planning under the name 2020. And at the time, the counties all said, no, planning is local. We got to keep it local. We're not going to get into this where the state does planning. Now, that was a long time ago, Governor Schaefer. Then came Governor Glendening, who started talking about smart growth. And over the years, and as you all know too, I had a brief stint working for Kent County, sitting in Ms. Heller's chair, where we talked a lot about Kent County, how it should grow, economic development, preserving the character. Over the years, I've represented a number of local governments and dealt with planning issues. And I'm going to get to connect all these dots for you. The whole importance of comprehensive plans and how they've evolved over the years and how important of a document they are now, coupled with the notion of smart growth that most have now bought into. I mean, I think we're well beyond that stage of the counties or municipalities being totally independent in planning. You know, you have a lot of state agency input in these plans, and I think that's reflected. I mean, I would compliment the state agencies that commented on this draft comprehensive plan. They made some very good comments that I hope the county considers, especially the Maryland Department of Planning. So I had the benefit of being introduced to a gentleman, Russ Richardson, a few years ago. I didn't know much about him. And not long after that, I heard from a lawyer in Baltimore City who happened to have a piece of real estate in Kent County that he had never seen, but he had to unload. And it happened to be a farm that was bifurcated by 301 near Millington. I introduced the two. Next thing you know, Mr. Richardson buys this farm and whatever. Well, what I since learned is Mr. Richardson's background in planning and development, his whole career in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, was developing interchanges on a very high level. What Mr. Richardson set out to do was put together a team, a very competent team, present company excluded, of professional planners to start developing a real concept for this area of Kent County, Millington to 301 interchange. He engaged, and if anybody involved in planning would know, he engaged a world-renowned firm, Looney, Ricks, and Kiss. They have offices all over, and they have a principal, Jim Constantine, who's been working with Mr. Richardson for over a year, developing plans for this area. Now, this isn't just about Richardson's properties. It's about, there's a number of properties in this area. You're talking about 500 to 600 acres of Kent County, and I'm talking about Millington and this area between Millington and the interchange. And they've been developing some plans. The drawing I've given you is one aspect of the concept, which starts with preservation of lands in this area, connectivity of these lands to Millington, pedestrian access, biking access, and things like that, because the belief is you start there. You really start with, if you're going to develop and do a comprehensive planning exercise with 500 acres, 600 acres, start with the lands you must preserve, you should preserve. How are they going to connect? How are people going to interconnect? And then what's left, you start proposing development. So I just wanted to give you a sense of the thinking. There's this traffic study, and let me talk about traffic a little bit. I know there's a lot of focus on the... Am I limited on my time?
No, go ahead. You're good.
I didn't think so. I didn't hear that. There's a lot of talk about the Chesapeake Bay Bridge and other crossing. More immediate, as far as impacting Kent County, is the increased traffic that we're going to realize on Route 301. Obviously, everybody knows, is paying attention about what's going on in the north in Delaware, the Middletown bypass. As significant is the new bridge crossing over the Potomac River on 301, connecting Maryland to Virginia. Because when those projects are complete, and Delaware is going to be complete pretty soon, you're a few years off for the new Harry Nice Bridge, okay? But that is really going to impact 301 and the amount of traffic. And that all plays into the thinking, of course, what may happen in this part of Kent County I'm talking about. So I did submit, there is a letter for you all that has specific details about what we think the county commissioner should focus on, or if it means referring back to the planning commission to focus on, is they have pretty much designated the area I'm referring to as a growth area. However, the maps, and these maps are very important, the maps all really need to be in sync. And when you look at the priority funding area map, and then what's designated as a growth area map, and then your septic map, for instance, in this area I'm talking about, there are some areas still designated as septic tier 4. Well, you really want this area to be tier 2, which is eventual public water and sewer, right? Because this whole area should be served by public water and sewer. So the main point and theme on this is all these maps that set out your designated growth areas and all that should really be consistent, not only with your own maps in this plan, but with the town of Millington. And I think this is a very important time for Kent County to be talking to the town of Millington and making sure all of this is in sync. And if you look at Millington's comprehensive plan, it really does what I've laid out about the growth, potential, and vision to the interchange, that whole area of land. So please, encourage consistency in these maps and in the county comp plan maps, and then make sure you're looking at the town of Millington maps as well. The other thing about the maps is we hope the scale could be improved too. I mean, if you look at these maps, it's very hard in the comp plan to really figure out what properties are really covered in some of the different shadings and all that. And I think this is an important document, and you want to make sure these maps are usable. So perhaps that can be done as well. So I guess to sum things up, this area of Kent County is really a poster child for smart growth. The vision for that area and what could happen in a well-planned, orderly, mixed-use development that could occur over a decade. I mean, this is nothing that's going to happen overnight, but this is certainly the time to plan it and envision it. So the stage is set for this potential. And there are people working very hard and making investments to try to make something like this happen. So with that, again, we are willing to facilitate any discussions between the town of Millington and the county to ensure that there is consistency. I mean, none of this matters if the town of Millington says, we have no plans to grow, but their comp plan says otherwise. I mean, they seem to want this. It makes sense in the county comp plan, and so we encourage that cooperation, and we certainly stand ready to help in any way. Thank you.
In fact, all indications that in discussions that we've had with town of Millington in the past and all, I think they are very encouraged about trying to do something, especially in this area. I mean, the county has talked about this for years, the 301 corridor. That's that area that you have marked out here. Excuse me, is the only place, I guess, between the Delaware line and somewheres in Queen Anne's County where there is actually water and sewer to this spot right now. It doesn't cover all of what you've got there, but it dissects right through the middle of it. So I appreciate you bringing it up. It is an important part. We have talked about here doing something to promote that 301 corridor,
and if you look at any...
Certainly something worth talking about.
And for all those reasons, Commissioner Fifi, and the water and sewer is so important, and I will say this, and I'll say it on the record on behalf of Richardson Properties, they expect to pay for all the infrastructure to accommodate this kind of growth, and any developer should be expected to pay for the impacts of this kind of development. I mean, we know there are some issues with the public water system in Millington. The people involved in this kind of vision should be paying for that water system and fixing it to accommodate this. As with the sewer, Millington is limited on its sewer capacity, even to do something at its current plant. And there's a lot of studies and talk underway on how to have available capacity for this kind of development. It's all doable, and it all should be funded by the folks that are involved in developing. The other thing I'll share, there is a traffic study that's been privately commissioned for this corridor, and it will be shared with the county as soon as it's complete, and it's very insightful as far as what maybe should be expected and anticipated. And another thing I'll add about thinking big and visioning, if you notice in the drawing I showed you, it even proposes a pedestrian crossing over 301. So you can get to the more sensitive lands on the west of 301 and incorporate that. We should be thinking big, okay? And I know you're already communicating with the State Highway about some of your projects. I suggest you start really thinking about what State Highway could be doing around this interchange to make it a really spectacular place in the long run.
Communications about an egress onto 301 up and down that strip because of other possible things that have come up in the past. Mm-hmm. So, and the state seems very receptive to it from the conversations I've had.
Like a service road?
Service road.
Absolutely. And that's
receptive to it. And
yep.
Ronnie says, I know for 6 years after we did some zoning changes 6 years ago, that has clearly been the focus in order to keep this part of the county as rural as it wants to be, Rock Hall,
Mm-hmm.
But again, Millington has asked for that, and I'm going to ask Sandy. Sandy, when it comes to some of the bullet points that he's brought up as far as the map overlays and things like that, in the comprehensive plan and everything that's been discussed, are those clearly defined now? And does it clearly allow the growth that we're asking? Yes. Thank you, Sandy Jr.
I think the intention is there. The maps do have some inconsistencies.
This is a publication, and the maps that are in here may or may not be useful for your purposes, but they are on file in the planning department that you can use them.
The maps are available at much lower.
Yes.
Yeah, they're all computer-generated maps, and the maps are provided in the document, but then growth areas and other maps can be increased in scale where you can actually see parcel level information.
Right. Well, and it may be a quadrant of the whole county map in the areas that are designated for growth. Where, I mean, you know the areas where there's going to be this kind of discussion and activity, and that's where you need.
Rather than, it doesn't necessarily have to be produced in this publication. It is available.
Right. And specifically, the designated growth areas around all the municipalities have individual
Yes.
maps for those areas. And what my hesitation was is some of these maps, there are specific requirements for the designations in those maps. And until the land underneath that area actually meets that criteria, you can propose to change them, but then when they go up to the state for review, you may run into some issues there. And I think what needs to happen, the suggestion to review all this and work all that out, I think is a good plan. But I think what's going to happen as time goes on, and Amy stopped me from hooking up the plank here, but the mapping will have to come along as plans progress.
But I think that's what's happened even for the last 10 years. We've had to change things to accommodate projects that have been done throughout the county. Yes, it'd be easier if it was done automatic, but we've actually just, 4 weeks ago, asked Wayne Marsh to put together that comprehensive review again of that whole corridor for public water and sewer. And he's pulling something that he did like 6-7 years ago out, which outlays most of it, but maybe we have to do something more there too. And Queen Anne's County is already paying for a complete northern end of the county study, and instead of us spending money to duplicate what they're doing, our Millington's the same as their Sellersville and their Millington. So we'll wait till they're done, steal their plan, and do that too. I mean, because why pay twice?
That was on someone else's dime. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any comments will be accepted until Friday, April 6th, 12 noon at the Commissioner's office, or email at kentcounty@kentgov.org. Okay. This hearing is closed. Yeah. Just trying to find my mic. Okay, Captain Newberry?
Wheels under me here.
Sorry. Been sitting too long.
I need new knees. Sit over here.
Yes.
Either that or either one. Yeah, you better sit down.
I better sit down before I fall down. Commissioners, thank you very much. My name is Captain Robert Newberry. I'm chairman of Delmarva Fisheries. Here bringing some good news to Kent County. On the 22nd of March this year, the governor, in his supplemental budget, procured $750,000 to go into the seed and shell program for the state of Maryland for the oyster program. And this is a first that the governor has done, not only by procuring this money, but it also now eliminates this what we in the industry refer to as waste of administrative handling. This money is going directly from the Department of Natural Resources into the shell committees in the county. Kent County's receiving will be roughly around $70,000 to go into planting a seed and shell, and it looks like they're going to be working with Queen Anne's County for establishing some seed areas and reshelling and seeding areas in the Chester River. Now, these areas will eventually be worked commercially, but for 3 years, in the term of the time it takes to get the oysters established, it's going to be benefiting the Chester River and off of Rock Hall. But I mean, this is all going to all 11 counties, even counties that hardly have a shell committee. And I know how important this is to Kent County, because I do want to applaud Kent County for supporting our members here in the county in Rock Hall and other areas that are in the Waterman's community by contributing every year to the shell program and working with them. But I just wanted to let you know that Delmarva Fisheries was very implemental in procuring this money. We kind of beat on the governor hard enough, and it was a good story because it shows how the governor's held true to his word. We went to him 2.5 years ago and said we wanted to increase our shell tax, which every waterman, when we sell a bushel of oysters, the person that buys it pays a $1 a bushel tax. Well, they think he's paying it. No, it comes out of our bushel. So really, we're paying our own tax. So we went to the governor and said, can we increase this to maybe $3? It hasn't been raised in 100 or in 80 years. It's never gone up. And he scratched his head for a minute. He goes, nope, that's a tax. I'm not doing it. And I'm going, well, we need the money. And he goes, well, we had the same situation with the healthcare nurses in the state wanted to raise their fee for their membership so that they can hire a better lobbyist, but it would be considered a tax. And he said no, and he found the money, and he said, we will find you some money. Well, it took 2 years and some good work from DFA and our members in Kent and Queen Anne's County to do it, and 2 weeks ago we had a meeting in Kent Island in the morning and basically signed the deal. So, but it's just goes to show this governor is holding true to his word that, you know, the money was there. And the good part is coming out of the Department of Natural Resources, so there's going to be no administrative handling, because with the MTA money, we lose $490,000 like that the minute DNR touches it. But this time, this money's going directly to the shell committees with no second handling on it, so they can buy the shell and seed that they find necessary. And just to give you a rough idea, that we were doing some numbers in the office the other day. If we were able to take, and we're not going to be able to do this, but hypothetically, if we could take this $750,000 and invest it in seed coming out of Virginia, which is very prominent right now, it would generate 160 million oysters, roughly, at the count that we're getting out, which over a 3-year period defines into a tax revenue of $31 million coming back directly into the industry. So it's not, I don't want to say that this money, as people say, this money's going to a put and take and we're throwing it out the window. This is creating jobs, helping the environment, cleaning the bay up, and also establishing a way that we can go ahead and keep our industry going. But I just wanted to bring this announcement today that Kent County will be receiving close to $70,000 of this money, if it's not in the accounts already. And looks like everything's on go. I was in contact with the department today, and the shell's going to be starting to move here in another week with the seed, and it looks like the whole month of May and May and June are going to be seed hauling months for the guys. So it's, get some oysters in the water. It's, that's what we all want. So I do want to thank Kent County for their, consistent help for the watermen and supporting our watermen. And Delmarva is proud to have our home office in Kent County in Chestertown too. So I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Okay. Is this Scott Boone?
I'm Scott Boone
You're
today.
Scott Boone today? Okay.
I am. Scott had sent in an update on the fiber build, so I'm going to read it for you. The construction is continuing on segment 12, which is the Quaker Neck segment, and if you've been down there lately, you've seen them working on that segment. Segment 19C, which is the Chestertown segment, is nearing completion. The segment will connect the hospital, middle school, and the Chestertown Volunteer Fire Company. Segment 18, which is the Rock Hall segment, is nearing completion as well. This segment will connect 9 additional anchor sites. And the construction has begun to the Rock Hall Civic Center, Rock Hall Beach, and Rock Hall Town Office.
If I remember correctly, the rescue squad is already connected.
I believe they are.
That Kent County Learning Center is where they do a lot of tutoring. Volunteers do. It was being hooked up today as well. Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. Thank you. Bob Edler again. I'm sorry, Robert Edler.
I know.
Shake your hand again.
Okay, real quick, Luisa's Italian Restaurant located on Washington Avenue has applied to add a catering privilege to their existing Class B license. It's a 6-month request, and they did have one once before, no problems. I recommend that they be approved for that.
So moved.
Second.
Probably move a second to approve the addition of a caterer's privilege to Luisa's existing license. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion's carried unanimously.
Thanks, sir.
Marty Hale, our Director of Human Resources.
Thank you. I'm here for 2 recommendations to hire individuals. One February 6th of this year, you approved upgrading an administrative 1 position that was part-time to a full-time position in the Department of Water and Wastewater Services, and also approved a new position to serve under the Public Works Director and also as a receptionist and to help out the Public Works building at 709 Morgan Road. So the first request is to, on March 19th, Wayne Morris, myself, and Sharon Hauser interviewed the applicants that were suitable and met the minimum requirements. And the first request is to hire the individual listed at the salary to fill the Water and Wastewater Administrative 1 position.
So we do both at the same time? They're all Public Works?
That's fine with me.
Okay, and then the second request is to hire the individual listed as the Administrative 2 position for the Director of Public Works in the building.
Okay. I have a motion.
Make a motion to approve both hires.
Second.
Properly moved and second to approve the individuals recommended to fill the stated positions in the Water and Wastewater Division of Public Works as requested pending successful completion of county pre-employment requirements. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion is carried unanimously.
All right, thank you. Next, I'd like to talk about the summer summer youth employment program. Beginning in 2014, and every season or every summer thereafter, you funded the summer youth employment program, and that program was designed to give high school students an opportunity to see how local government works and to give them some experience in an office environment and just expose them to a different environment than some of them or students would get in a fast food or a retail setting. So the first year we were extremely successful, and we had 10 applicants and we hired 10 individuals, and the program was very successful. And each year thereafter we've had waning interest and varying degrees of success. So this year I put, and every year I have to ask during the budget cycle if you're going to fund the program in the following year, because the program actually straddles 2 fiscal years. So I budget the tail end of last year and request the funding for the first part of the following year. This year I sent out to the departments to see who was interested in having a student intern, and I really didn't get a lot of results back. I had a couple of conversations, and I have one department that's interested and possibly a second one. Last year we had 5 departments, I think, or 4 departments and 5 applicants. So I have, however, had some conversations with the departments who have expressed interest in increasing the age of the applicants. For instance, one year we hired, the high school is 9th through 12th grade, and we hired someone that was between 8th and 9th and extremely young, and a lot of these internships turn into really a mentoring type experience, and it requires a lot of staff time. Because they're young, it's hard to teach them a skill and turn them loose without supervision. However, I've had a lot of conversations about increasing that age. So this year I thought, maybe we should make it 11th and 12th grades. And then I also had conversations that a lot of the departments expressed an interest in being able to hire some of these students back in their college years. When we have a student that's successful in a department, they go off to college, they come back to the county, and if we're not an option for them, then it's fast food or retail or hopefully in our Parks and Rec department, such as the lifeguards and everything. But your office takes advantage of one of the first applicants or one of the first participants of the program and comes back during the summer months and even winter break. What that does is it allows for consistency. It's layering on the learning experiences. They're actually remembering what they did the last time they were here, and then because they have those tasks down, they're able to pick up some new tasks, hone those during the season. If they come back at Christmas time, then again, they're more fluid in the environment, and they become an asset as opposed to taking staff time away.
It's actually been a good model. What we've done with that individual has been a good model, and I actually agree with you. I mean, I wasn't in favor of this program when it started, but I've seen what it's done. But I agree, the older the kids are, capture them then, and then if they come back, it wouldn't necessarily be through that mentoring program. It would, we could possibly use them in those departments again, because some of them love the departments they work in.
They do.
And you're only talking a 6 or 7 week job.
Correct. Well, and we could expand it perhaps into the Christmas season for departments that have increased activity. Tourism, for instance, has an individual that was still in the program, so she participated in the program 2 years in a row. She's actually doing this year her community service or her community time.
5 hours.
I'm sorry, community
Service learning hours.
Service learning hours. I'm sorry, but it is community service. So, however, she's doing that. So she returned to us in an unpaid situation, and again, she's moving into college years, and would like to continue in that department if the work is there. So this year as well, because I didn't utilize all the funds from the student program, I asked to spend a little bit of that money to help economic development with a college intern. I believe the money was in her budget, so that wasn't used. But these funds seem to be, they're limited funds, but I think they could do a lot more than what we're doing with them.
So your question is, would we consider extending the years? I mean,
yeah,
to some of the older students.
Still have the mentorship in the 11th and 12th grade, and you're not going to close it for a 9th grader. I mean, you're not just going to specifically advertise from 11th to 12th, are you? Or is that what you're asking?
The program guidelines are high school students.
Right, so 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th.
Well, okay, for this year, there's going to be 1 and possibly 2 positions. So I can honestly say that it's more likely that an older student's going to get it over a younger student.
That's fine, but you can still market to high school students. Correct?
Yes, we can.
I mean, then you interview. You still interview, correct?
Yes.
I'm seeing something. Is there? What are you asking?
Well, as the program moves forward, let's be honest. I put it out there that we have these departments that are interested. A returning student is going to come and say, "I want to work in tourism. I have these skills. I have this experience." I'm going to have another student that is saying, "Well, I like tourism, but I'm not quite sure."
We only have two teams that won them this year, and both positions they have people that want to come back.
Well, the one position, if that isn't open to the college students, it's not a position.
Since I designed this program, this is not an employment internship forever. Anyone who's participated in this program eventually will matriculate into a full-time job somewhere doing something. So you're always going to have this input in the beginning all the time, and that may be a 9th grader, 10th grader, whoever falls on. So I think it's incumbent upon that we should look, in my opinion, we should allow students who are more mature, older, et cetera, to continue in the program.
I agree. I mean, if that's what you were trying to say.
Well, I am, but I would
encourage every department to have an intern.
It does pose some challenges because of the constant oversight of some of the, especially more inexperienced.
And as you know, I actually think the department heads have a role in this, but it's good. I think what you're asking for is fine. I think even going into college, those kids coming back here, if it's a budget item we need to look at, if that's something that department, even if you have a mentor in there, maybe that college kid coming back for, I mean, it's,
College kid could be mentored.
yeah, exactly. Could be mentoring that individual coming through. So it could be a program. I don't mind anything you said, really, as long as we get to the bottom of it.
Okay, I think I understand.
Oh, I hope you do.
Well, and I'm going to be honest, depending upon the outcome of tonight, I mean, there's very little interest in participation in the youth part of it. So if
Well, I think the department heads should be strongly encouraged.
But not forced.
I said encouraged.
Well, I think there's also an issue of, the quality. I mean, through this program, even simple scanning to the cloud.
Where this program advertised in the past?
How many
We
years?
advertised high school students.
We advertised it. Yes, you had to be in a,
Going into 12th grade in the past.
from the
Very-
departments.
Well, and from the youth.
Well, and that's waned. Yes, it has. Yes, it has. I think we had 6 applicants. We hired 5 last year.
Okay.
Okay, and I had 10 spots.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the market.
Let's reach out and see what we get. I mean, how many students that want to participate.
I mean,
Yeah, but what he's saying is you only have 2 department heads that actually have time.
I have one that will take one, and one's a maybe.
Well, some of them, I mean, some of the departments obviously can't. I mean, you're not going to
Put on roads.
put on.
Well, and I've taken that into account. I didn't even count the departments that it's inappropriate.
Most of the departments in this bill, right? I mean,
Yes.
tourism, economic development, planning.
Yes, local management board, IT, the commissioner's office, economic development, planning and zoning, finance, HR, public works, they actually,
Administratively.
yes, and tourism.
And it was a pretty, I mean, we brought them all in here. It was a pretty successful program, we thought, as far as the interns go. Now, might have been a headache to some of the department heads, I don't know, but,
Well, it actually becomes a quality issue as well because, okay, I'll use, for instance, copying. Okay, there's copying to be done, and you have to teach them on the copy machine and everything, and then they copy, but then you have to, you tell them, make sure you check to see if it's front side and back side, and then you get one side. So then you have to sort through that. Someone has to sort through them and say you missed this side, and go back. Scanning documents to the cloud. They'll scan the front but not the back, and then we've lost documents.
We understand, but this is also planting a seed. We're growing skills in our county, in our youth. That's important.
One of our departments had 2 interns last year, and part of their assignment, their work to do for this department is to pitch an idea for the youth. And one of the youth came up with an idea that this particular internship should be opened up to the volunteer fire companies and some more technical aspects other than just office work.
I believe in that same document it said that schools should run it.
Okay.
So-
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that part, but
Well, I read the document because it was part of this, at least the segment of it said it should be administered by the schools.
consider is helping to scan for opportunities outside of the county, the actual county employment. I mean, it could be, the funds could go through us, but
Actually, I did have a request 2 years ago from Wayne Gilchrist of the
Wayne's too old to be an intern.
I know, and he certainly is no longer high school eligible.
Pretty quick with that one.
But he does run the program at Turner's.
Here to go with or something?
What's that?
Did you let him know about that earlier?
Oh, I didn't. But since the discussion is evolving, Wayne Gilchrist did ask that for if he could be part of the program, his program could be part of that at Turner's Creek. And 1 year we actually had Upper Shore Regional Council participated with an intern. So,
Well, why don't we go ahead and advertise just like we did for interns, and then we'll be a little bit creative as far as where we send them.
Yeah.
Maybe we do send Wayne an intern. Maybe we do send one to soil conservation. Who knows where? Let's see where we get interested first.
You only get 5 or 6. You know, if you get 20, then we have an issue.
Well, if we get 5 or 6, there's one job right now. I mean,
It'll be no.
oh
HR.
no, oh no, we need those documents back.
Okay?
So, I'll do my best.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm just glad as you're leaving as confused as we are.
Okay. Your turn.
Okay, I have one item for you today, and that is a recommendation for appointment to the Tourism Development Advisory Board.
Is there a motion? Hearing no motion, the recommendation is
By any chance, have those requests that we mail out once in a while where anybody would want to be has asked to be a member? Might want to look at that.
We will look at it and get back to you.
Very good.
Absolutely.
That's it?
That's it.
Motion to approve. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You have a statement? Anything you want to say?
No.
Anything you want to say? News media have any questions? Bob? No? Anyone? No comments at all? Questions? Good.
Motion to adjourn.
We're adjourned.
We're adjourned.